All right, so this is part two of how to keep the Sabbath day. So I'm going to start here in the book of Jubilees. And this is part of the reason why I made this into two parts. Some people are iffy on the book of Jubilees, but just to briefly give it some credit, it is quoted several times in the New Testament. Galatians 3:19, that's an example where Paul references the law being given by angels, and that is in Jubilees chapter 1. And then also Hebrews 11 verse 5 references like Enoch having a testimony, which is mentioned in Jubilees chapter 4. And there are some other ones. I have a video on like New Testament references to the books of Enoch and Jubilees, but go check that out if you're having doubts. But I'm just going to start here in Jubilees chapter 50. This is the last chapter, and it talks about how to keep the Sabbath day, laws regarding the Sabbath. So because some people seem to like be unsure of like what is considered work. So this book actually goes into it a bit. So I'm just going to start in verse 7. So 6 days shalt thou labor, but on the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it ye shall do no manner of work, ye and your sons, and your maidservants, and your maidservants, and all your cattle, and the sojourner also who is with you. So again, don't let anyone do any work either, neither your animals, nor yourself, nor the stranger that is within your gates. So don't let anyone work for you. And the man that does any work on it shall die. Whosoever desecrates the day. And before I go on, whoever does any work shall die. This is also in the Torah, like the first five books of the Bible. But we're not under sacrificial law anymore, so we don't need to stone people to death. The Messiah elevated loving your neighbor as yourself, which means to rebuke people who sin instead of killing them. So this is the mercy that he talks about. He prefers mercy, not sacrifice. I'll get into that actually because the Messiah does mention it in his teachings in the New Testament when he talks about the key of David and stuff. But yeah, you don't need to stone people for their sins anymore. You rebuke them. And so when you see someone breaking the Sabbath who's a believer, instead of stoning them, you go rebuke them. So, when it says they shall die, now we know they shall be rebuked so that they can repent. All right. So whosoever desecrates the day, whosoever lies with his wife, or whosoever says he will do something on it. This is another thing. You're not supposed to have sexual intercourse. I mentioned this not directly, but I said you're not supposed to be doing your own pleasure on the day. So make sure you're not doing this either, profaning the day by having sex. So whosoever says he will do something on it, that he will set out on a journey thereon in regard to any buying or selling. So again, no buying or selling. And whoever draws water thereon, which he had not prepared for himself on the sixth day. So Exodus 16, you're supposed to prepare stuff the day before. And whosoever takes up any burden to carry it out of his tent or out of his house shall die. You shall do no work whatever on the Sabbath day, save what ye prepared for yourselves on the sixth day, so as to eat and drink and rest, and keep Sabbath from all work on that day, and to bless the Lord your God, who has given you a day of festival and a holy day. So there is a day of festival. So it's not supposed to be a day of fasting. It's supposed to be a day of rejoicing, not mourning, but a day for man, a blessing. And a day of the holy kingdom for all Israel is this day among their days forever. For great is the honor which the Lord has given to Israel that they should eat and drink and be satisfied on this festival day. So they should eat and drink and rest thereon from all labor which belongs to the labor of the children of men, save burning frankincense and bringing oblations and sacrifices before the Lord for days and for Sabbaths. So this is actually mentioned by the Messiah in Matthew 12, which I'm going to go into. So this work alone shall be done on the Sabbath days in the sanctuary of the Lord your God, that they may atone for Israel with sacrifice continually from day to day for a memorial well pleasing before the Lord, that he may receive them always from day to day, according as thou hast been commanded. And every man who does any work thereon, or goes on a journey, or tills his farm, whether in his house or any other place, and whoever lights a fire, or rides on any beast, or travels by ship on the sea, and whoever strikes or kills anything, or slaughters a beast or a bird, or whoever catches an animal, or a bird, or a fish, or whoever fasts or makes wars on the Sabbaths, the man who does any of these things on the Sabbath shall die, so that the children of Israel shall observe the Sabbaths according to the commandments regarding the Sabbaths of the land, as it is written in the tablets, which he gave into my hands, that I should write out for thee the laws of the seasons and the seasons according to the divisions of their days. So, no fasting. So specifically, I think this is like the third time I mentioned this already, but yeah, it's supposed to be a holy day. Because I made this mistake, maybe that's why I'm emphasizing it so much. Like you're not supposed to be fasting on the Sabbath. It's a day where you rejoice, you eat, you make merry, but then you also make it a day doing the Lord's pleasure so that you read his word and seek his kingdom on this day. So yeah, don't just go like fishing either. Whoever fasts or makes war on the Sabbaths. And this is actually what I'm going to get into in fasting because people like to discredit Jubilees by saying, "Oh, look, the Messiah, he fasted on the Sabbath day because he fasted for 40 days in a row. So, some of them would have been the Sabbath. And I'm going to go into this with what the key of David does. But yeah, you're not supposed to fast, and you can't make war either. This is something else they did in like Joshua chapter 6, I believe. They went to war for 7 days in a row. One of them would have been the Sabbath day. So this key of David, I'm going to mention, this is going to go over this. So let's do that. So Matthew 12, this is the Messiah's teaching on the key of David. One of them at least. He has a few, but so, chapter 12. At that time, Yeshua went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were an hungered and began to pluck the ears of corn and to eat. When the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day. And this is true. But he said unto them, Have ye not read what David did when he was an hungered, and they that were with him? How he entered into the house of God and did eat the shewbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests? Or have ye not read in the law how that on the Sabbath days the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? So, he's referencing Jubilees there. But I say unto you that in this place is one greater than the temple. But if ye had known what this meaneth, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, ye would have not condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath day. So he is Lord of the Sabbath. He is able to profane it and be guiltless because he has the key of David. And they are guiltless. They're trying to condemn them. They might even be ready to pick up stones, it seems like, from what this says. They're trying to condemn them for breaking the Sabbath, but no. Um, they're guiltless because they have the key of David. So we now have to go read what David did to understand why they were blameless. So, 1 Samuel 21, this is what he is referencing. Then came David to Nob to Ahimelech the priest, and Ahimelech was afraid at the meeting of David, and said unto him, Why art thou alone, and no man with thee? And David said unto Ahimelech the priest, The king hath commanded me a business, and hath said unto me, Let no man know anything of the business whereabout I send thee, and what I have commanded thee, and I have appointed my servants to such and such a place. And therefore, what is under thine hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread in mine hand, or what there is present. And the priest answered David and said, There is no common bread under mine hand, but there is hallowed bread, if the young men have kept themselves at least from women. And David answered the priest and said unto him, Of a truth, women have been kept from us about these 3 days, since I came out, and the vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is in a manner common, yea, though it were sanctified this day in the vessel. So the priest gave him hallowed bread, for there was no bread there but the shew bread that was taken from before the Lord to put hot bread in the day when it was taken away. So what just happened here? David, he was asked by the priest if the young men have kept themselves from women, and he said, Of a truth, women have been kept from us about these 3 days. So what is this 3 day thing? This 3 day sexual fast. This is actually the key of David that he's referencing. So David knew more than all his rabbis. If you check Psalm 119 verses 99 to 100, and him and his army, he was able to go to war on the Sabbath day, and it's because they knew about this 3 day sexual fast. So this is actually from Exodus 19 here. I'll read that in just a sec. But basically this shewbread, if you read Leviticus 24, I think verses 4 to 9, it says that this shewbread was put there on the Sabbath day and it was only for the priests. So this is a Sabbath law that he's breaking here, but he is allowed to break it and profane it because he has the key of David. He kept his vessel holy by abstaining from sex from 3 days. So this is the key of David fast. And it allows you to profane the Sabbath and be guiltless if you are doing the will of God. And Paul mentions this in 1 Corinthians chapters 6 and 7. But chapter 6 says that everything is lawful for me, but not everything is expedient. So you can't just use this all willy-nilly. You actually have to be doing the will of God. So this is what it is. You can fast from sex and you can do the will of God and break the Sabbath, like go out preaching. So Paul, he was on a ship for like 7 days, more than 7 days in a row, and it was okay because he had the key of David. Paul was a virgin, so I think so at least. But the point is, this is where it comes from in the law. So, and the Lord said unto Moses, Go unto the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, let them wash their clothes and be ready against the third day. The third day will the Lord come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. Thou shalt set bounds on the people round about, saying, Take heed to yourselves that ye go not up into the mount, or touch the border of it. Whosoever toucheth the mount shall be surely put to death. There shall not an hand touch it, but he shall surely be stoned, or shot through, whether it be beast or man, it shall not live. When the trumpet soundeth long, then shall come up to the mount, or they shall come up to the mount. And Moses went down from the mount unto the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said unto the people, Be ready against the third day, come not at your wives. So this is where it is in the law. So there's a 3 day sexual fast. It allows them to break the Sabbath and like assemble to do this thing on Mount Sinai or uh, below Mount Sinai because they had kept themselves from women. And David saw this and he understood it. And maybe there was more that was in here that was removed that also pointed to this. But the point is, this 3 day sexual fast is in a couple different spots in Scripture. But you can now understand why in Joshua 6 they went to war for 7 days in a row. It's because they had the key of David. They were walking around the city for 7 days. They weren't having sex. So um, that's why they were able to profane the Sabbath and be guiltless. It's the same thing with the man who the Messiah commanded to get up and walk. The Pharisees accused him, were like, you can't carry a burden, you can't carry this bed on the Sabbath day. But it was okay because he was a leper, and well, lepers don't have sex. So he had the key of David, so he was able to profane it and obey the Messiah's commandments. So that's what it allows you to do. And this explains why the priests can be blameless in the temple because, the priests know this as well. And it's also why I think I actually mentioned already the sailing, Paul sailed. Yeah. So yeah, I have videos specifically on the Key of David, but go check it out. Or I have one video specifically on the Key of David, but the point is this is a provision in the law and explains some of the things, some of the abnormalities, like why the Messiah was able to go 40 days without eating on the Sabbath, even though you're commanded not to fast, because of course, he had the Key of David. He's Lord of the Sabbath. But hopefully, this explains some more of the, you know, something that might seem like contradictions. And yeah, so that's the Key of David. And I also mentioned in this video, Jubilees. So yeah, that's more of like a specifications, like what exactly is considered work. Some people, especially Jews, tend to like go to that as an argument, like, oh, it's something you put to death for. We better know specifically what it says, like what it means to work. Well, there you go. You have it in Jubilees, but they reject that book, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that's what I got for part two. So yeah, check out part one if you haven't already, I guess.